Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rock Show with Connor Farrell. Today, our guest is world-famous photographer, artist manager, event producer himself. Good times, Rick Perez, the man of the hour. Cue intro.
Peace, love, and rock and roll, brother. Peace, love, and rock and roll.
Okay, welcome back from the intro. Wonderful here. We're here with Rick. Now, Rick, we're going to start a little light. What was one of like the first bands you really got into? What was one of the first like artists that grabbed out to you?
Just like listening
Yeah,
or
just like when you were a kid.
dude, I was obsessed with Blink-182. Like,
Oh,
yeah, Blink-182 was just like one of my favorite like top bands. Like my AOL Instant Messenger like screen name was like Blink Kid 182 or something like that. Green Day was also like a really big band and that was like really formative. Yeah, I probably like Blink-182 and Green Day.
yeah. Okay, so what's if you had to pick like just a good song? What's a good song? Blink-182.
Blink-182, damn it.
Damn it.
I feel like damn it was like my like high school angst, like it's I mean the whole song is just about like, well, I guess this is growing up, nah, nah, you know what I mean? It was just like growing up in the suburbs, like you know you know what I'm saying? Like life is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. Okay. And then Green Day, pick one song.
Um
Just a good one. Any song.
when I come around.
Ooh.
When I
Now
come
why?
around. And I don't remember. I don't remember why I particularly like that song. It's probably has to do with the lyrics, probably has to just do with like, I don't know. I just love it. I mean, I need to listen to that song again. I need to listen to both of those songs again. I need to revisit them. I haven't listened to those songs in years, but
Man,
I need to revisit.
what are you doing?
Dude, I know.
Like,
What am I doing, man? Like, I need to go back to like old, like, old Rick, high school Rick.
yeah, come on, High School Rick. Might be slightly different from Pickle Rick.
Yeah, really,
It's
really
very,
different. Yep.
very topical reference there.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so here's it's still kind of light. Um, let's go. Okay, so well, I guess let's dig into it. So you're managing how many bands? Just Integra Pink? How many bands are you managing right now?
Just Integra Pink.
Integra Pink. Okay, so for the listeners here who might not be initiated, um, how would you introduce them to Integra Pink? What should we know?
Yeah. So Integra Pink is they're like an indie alternative band from the Inland Empire. They take a lot of different types of influences. A lot of their music is like they mix a lot of like punk, indie, they have like cumbia in there. They have new wave. They have some rap in there. They have a lot of different just mixing of just like different music. Um,
Yeah.
you know, they're just like visually, like their aesthetics wise, they're really into like kind of like a 90s kind of like visuals. Um, and they love documenting themselves. They have this thing called Pink TV, which like they document kind of like their adventures as a band,
Ooh.
whether they're going to like just like different shows and just things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So I
they're
guess
sick.
sweet. Okay. So are they the only band you're managing right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so what's your like focus managing them? What's kind of like what are you thinking about as like your role as a manager and what you're trying to help them achieve?
Yeah. I mean, I think just what I'm really trying to do is get them to the point where they are making a good living off of being a band. And, how I'm doing that is trying to create opportunities for them, trying to like let people know about them, um, using like my network through the magazine and just as a photographer, just as a person and just trying to guide them and like trying to make like good decisions and um, I really want to build a really good team around them that we all work together and kind of build them up. Um, and general guidance and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Kind of
I
just
guess
with it. I mean, there's
so.
like so
You're
much more that there's like
yeah.
so much more that goes into it, but that's kind of like, you know,
Yeah. So
the
I
basic.
would say so. Two things I heard there, and you can let me know what you
Sure,
think about that. Is
sure,
getting them making a good living as a band, and then
yeah,
second is building a team
yeah,
to help facilitate all of that. So I guess
yeah,
let's start with what's making a good living as a band. Is there a
yeah,
primary like? Is it mostly from shows we want to make money? Is it from streaming? Is it from maybe like doing YouTube videos and like
yeah,
about band life on Pink TV? I don't know where Pink TV is. Do they post it
right,
on YouTube? So what's the main kind of is there a main goal or a
right,
main place you're trying to make revenue from
right,
for the band? What is
right.
that?
I think that, I think first and foremost, how the music industry is, like touring and shows is like probably the biggest thing to get to for them to get to a point where they are, um, making enough money from their ticket sales and merch and everything, just as far as touring. But also, who know? Like also, like kind of who knows, right? Like I
Yeah.
mean, maybe Pink TV might go off. Maybe they get a good sponsorships. Maybe they get a good. I mean, it kind of. I feel like having like a band, you're not just like we're
Yeah.
just musicians. Like you're an entire like brand and entity. And
Yeah.
so like whatever kind of comes off with that, and so like an example, right, is they they're having like a release show on August 10th, and one of their merch that they're selling is like a fingerboard,
Oh, okay.
um and that has to do with like their mixtape release, because their mixtape release is like it's like a basically like skateboarding playlist.
Yeah.
And so that's part of like their brand. That's part of the brand of like this release, and it's part of the brand of them, and so that's part of it, basically. And then
Yeah.
it could grow into like other things, and I think that we're like kind of in the beginning stages. I've only been working with them, like, wow, it's gonna be a year, like in the fall, which is like kind of crazy, but um, we're like in our early stages, and they're the early stages, and I think we're kind of just going where we do have a plan, but also being really um, flexible on opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So, thinking about that, okay. So, you're kind of like doing a little bit of everything,
Hmm.
and just kind of paying attention to what works, having a
Yeah.
general plan, but, also staying flexible to if this
Right.
thing goes off, we're going to we're going to do more of
Right.
that.
Right. And then I think just what's important, I think first and foremost, is just like being authentic and remembering what they like to do.
Uh-huh.
And um, I wouldn't want them to go into something that doesn't feel natural for them.
Yeah.
And like they love playing shows, and so like naturally, like, cool, let's tour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's like get out there, go on the road and do cool shit.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So, I guess, So, I guess, do you have like in your brain when you think about like what level of touring do you consider, I guess, them getting to that reaches that first like main goal of getting them to make a good living?
Yeah,
Is there like what do you have any benchmarks of like play this certain club or like be able to regularly play this multiple times a year, a little
yeah,
circuit or like
yeah.
what's what's those goals? Like how do you come up with that?
So I mean, I would ideally, would love for them to go like Hollywood Bowl status, kind of. You know what I mean? Of course,
Yeah.
I think that's every band's dream. But I think that if they would be able to make, I mean, just that they could like have like a good like kind of like almost like middle class life, if you
Yeah.
will. And so, I mean, and that could look like different things. Um, they could be playing like the Wiltern in Los Angeles. They could be playing like the House of Blues in San Diego and Observatory and everything. And that
Yeah.
could only, you know, those big venues only maybe a couple times a year, and that could equal to, or they could play like a bunch of like smaller places, but still equal that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that my benchmark for success is just that the artist is happy and the artist is making a good living off of it,
Yeah.
and how it looks like we'll see. um because I mean there are bands who are not playing the Observatory, who are not playing the Wiltern, who are not playing the Hollywood Bowl, but they're like making a living, like they're like working musicians.
Yeah.
So it just kind of just depends, and I'm like along for the ride. you know
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So they're doing that, and then okay. So let's kind of take that turn to the next part, which is
Yeah.
building the team.
Yeah.
So like, I guess what kind of things do you see the team doing? Like,
Yeah.
what's kind of like the first areas in which you'd want to bring people onto the team?
Yeah. So right now they're working with Wiretap Records,
Uh-huh.
and so I work a lot with the label on like releasing and releasing strategies and playlists and all that stuff. And um, so that's one aspect of it, is like a release strategy.
Yeah.
Um, and then another aspect of it is you know, I eventually want them to get an agent. An agent
Uh-huh.
would um, you know, open doors to like for them to like open up on tours and things like that.
Mm.
And also like that's like working with someone with a show strategy. You know, like
Uh-huh.
I've learned in my time just different like show strategy, booking strategies, but um, someone who's more knowledgeable, who's more into it, and that's their job, is like
Yeah.
a lot better. Um, you know, eventually, you know, like um, a touring manager, a you know, they have like a business manager, just like those types of things, as they get bigger, as they, you know, the team builds and grows, and like just things like that. Basically, just having everybody for this band and be like, we're gonna try to uplift them. We're gonna try to do what we can to make them successful. Because it's hard. I mean, it's hard. Like I'm doing, you know, a lot of these things by myself, and it is really hard. And I'm not knowledgeable on everything. And so once you get people who are a lot more knowledgeable than myself, who are experts in their field, you know, that's when it kind of like next level, next level, next level. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah, I guess I'm completely kind of what is like show strategy for like the
Mhm.
uninitiated in the audience. Like, could you give us kind of like what is that?
Right. So kind of like trying to figure out, you know, like let's just say they're headlining event. Like we want to have them headline a venue. Like think about, you know, where they are in their music career, who had they have opened for, trying to pick um you know, would a certain, you know, obviously like I'm, you know, if they're like smaller in their thing, they're not going to play like a huge venue, but maybe they might be able to play a smaller venue. um you know, which show, like be more picky with shows, and like hey, like okay, like which show would be a good one for your career, and which one would be fun, which one, you know, um just I think this just like things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So this kind of leads me into some things I've got like theories on. Or
Sure.
I'd be love to
Sure.
get it. So from my experience, the show feels the best, has the most reckless energy. See, I did that. Okay.
Hey, hey,
No, it's
yeah.
when it's no,
Ah,
but it tends to be no, it's you silly little guy. No, it tends to be when it's like this state of like even if it's a 30-person room, but there's 40 people.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that sometimes goes better than like we played a show once where it was a 300-person room, but there was only 220 people, and
Mm-hmm.
it felt like the biggest flop of my life. I
Yeah.
was like, Oh, and then no one came to the shows, and we built up to it like that, and so we had to start over, kind of like lost a bunch of momentum. We're like, what do we
Wow.
do? I
Yeah.
mean, we broke even on the show because I was the one who put it together with the venue, but
Uh-huh.
still, like, it was like, oh wow, like, I guess so. Yeah, what's your philosophy? So my philosophy is that like it's better to have density of a crowd, and
Yeah.
that's what makes them feel like it's a crazy show.
Yeah. And
And
like
so you got to train up like venues, like so. What's yeah,
yeah, I mean 1%, like I'm all for like slow and steady, right? Like we build up to like those like big venues, and I'm not trying to, I don't want them to play to empty room, and
yeah.
like a 200 people in a 500 person venue doesn't look good, but like a 200 people in a 250 venue is great. You know what I mean? And so and it's same like if it's like a super small venue, like only like 100 people are there, but it's like that's the capacity, then it looks and it feels more lit. And then I love that. And I feel it's like, the people who are there, they want to be there, and that's also even better. Like you want, like, there's different types of fans, right? There's like the diehard fans, and then there's like the whatever fans, and there's people who like know about you. So there's, and I like, I'm just, you know at the end of the day, it's like as long as you have like it's packed with just like diehard fans, like it's all you really want, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, so I,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
agree 100%.
Okay. Okay. So you want the diehard fans? Oh, because that's So this is my question. I came up with.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you? Okay. So does that translate the difference between like how like packed it is and if it's
Hmm.
diehard fans having a good time versus a bigger venue, even if it's double the crowd, but it's not as packed? Does it translate better? Because my thought was on photo. All you can
Oh,
tell is the intensity because you can only maybe see a couple people, if you're getting the band is there, and you're capturing the band and then it's the stage behind them, you maybe see some screaming fans a little bit in the
hmm,
front of the image, but beside that it's mostly just the band. And so
right,
all you can see is how crazy the fans are going, not how big the room is.
right.
So but so like I guess how do you think about having good photos that translate, that get people outside of just the word of mouth part, which is great from the show.
Hmm.
But then like when you're doing photos and you want press photos to like use,
For Integra Pink.
yeah, for Integra Pink. Yeah. Like, so
Yeah.
how do you think about capturing those? Does it involve like, okay, this crowd is like really packed together, so it looks way better? Like,
Yeah.
how do you plan that out?
Yeah, definitely. Like I definitely know that if they're working with a photographer and I happen to be able to like collaborate with them, or like work with that photographer, I would kind of say, yeah, get them, but also get the crowd, stem from, you know what I mean? And I think that's also my experience as well as a photographer myself,
Mm,
um, and trying to get that energy. Because it's like live stage photos are really good, but it's also good to get like from the side and from, you know what I'm saying? And so
yeah.
even for the release show, we're kind of talking about like different photographers, maybe videographer, just things like that to try to make things, because I mean, we're like in a visual society, so like that type of stuff is super super
Yeah.
important. um yeah.
Yeah. So I guess so. How do you think about like using those photos? What's like the primary things you think about? Because clearly you understand the importance as a magazine,
Yeah.
editor,
Yeah.
and curator. So I guess how do you, yeah, when you're going into it looking for photos, you're like, oh, this would be good for this. This would be good
Yeah.
for something else. What are those kind of like distinctions and buckets you place things in?
I think that I think a lot from other bookers, right? I feel
Mm,
like when people, like if you're on a band, because there's someone who like books myself, I like go on other people's maybe Instagrams or TikToks or just some
yeah,
social media, and and I could see how lit their shows are, or I could see like that they can bring a crowd, that they have good, you know what I mean? Like that really
yeah.
helps, and I think that's kind of what I think. It's also like aesthetic wise, right? Like that they
Mm.
look good at the end of the day. Like
Yeah,
like it's like I think whether it's just them on stage or with the crowd, like they look good to to the public.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. Okay. So I guess how do you, yeah, broadly speaking, there's clearly like examples, like I can think of bands where, like anything can get to like the Gigi Allen point where it's like they're just half naked running around in a super punk setting. But like outside of that kind of stuff, when you're just thinking conventionally, um, more kind of like streamlined, what do you think as like a good aesthetic? How do you like kind of tell like does it just click or what's your kind of read on that?
Yeah. So there's two things with that, right? I think number one, I think that they know their aesthetic,
Oh,
and so they it's really important that they stick with, or they're true to their aesthetic, and they're true to like how they want to be perceived, you know?
so it's conscience.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah.
element, maybe.
Yeah. Um and then I guess for me personally, um I mean, it's just like as far as like aesthetic wise, yeah, it's like them, I don't I don't really I give suggestions, but I don't really. That's not something I like with this band in
Yeah,
particular. That's not something I work. I like have a lot of, not saying, but like I don't really work with them on that because they kind of know who they are
yeah.
aesthetic wise. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I mean, I think I definitely think that, and how I see an image of like, hey, like this is part of their aesthetic and they look really good in it. That's like
Yeah.
that's okay with me. You know what I mean?
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. So I'm writing down. I'm like consciously chosen plus true, but then I scrapped that. I was like, deliberate, it's
Deliberate,
true
yeah.
to them, and
Yeah.
it looks good.
Yeah.
It's gotta, right? Because at the end of the day,
Right.
it's gotta look
Yeah. At
good. But
the end of the day.
also,
Yeah.
it's gotta be deliberate. So that's okay, it's good you pointed that out. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so I
because
guess
it's like
yeah.
if it's deliberate, then like you know what you like, I feel like it's like you kind of know who you are. And this is not just
Yeah.
for them, this is just for any band, right? Like if you're kind of deliberate in what you're putting out there, like you kind of have an idea of like who you are. And
Yeah.
that's a really good, um I guess, first step as a band. Or like it's a like I feel like if Integra Pink didn't know who they were as a band, I don't know if I would have worked with them, because it's like hard to do artist development, you know?
Uh-huh. Okay, yeah. So I guess, so it seems to me, and this is totally outside, don't have much knowledge, but
Okay.
seems like for labels these days, they want someone kind of fully formed, already having success
Yeah.
on social media, or like already like destroying at clubs everywhere they play. And
Yeah.
usually then they have either they start with big social media and then they start selling out clubs because they have that audience,
Yeah.
or they have a big audience in person, which eventually spills over into them having a social media. Um, so I guess so like labels. So my read is that labels
Okay.
want people already like at the point where they don't need a label, right? Like kind
Yeah.
of where I guess maybe your goal is for Integra Pink, but for you, it sounds like you might be like looking at Integra Pink and saying, "I worked with them." A label might say they need to be fully formed. For you, you just need to have your artist like discovery. Like you just need to know who you are,
Yeah.
and then I think if that's the place where we can
Yeah.
actually like get some work done.
Yeah. Because I think I'm so like I feel like very young. I'm a very young manager, and I
Yeah.
have learned a lot, and I'm finding my voice as that. I'm finding my style. I'm finding my who I am as a manager, and um, so like because I'm really young, I was like looking for a band to kind of grow with as well. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
that's why it's like they didn't need to have a huge social media following. They didn't need to have all this stuff. They just needed to have something to work with. And they, you know what I mean? And they do. Like they
Yeah.
look great, and they're doing great, and they have great music, and um they're doing things that are different from like other bands like in the scene. And so I feel like
Yeah.
it's they stand apart. And so from there it's like you can definitely build off, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of okay.
Oh, and then
So I was.
labels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I agree as well. Like a lot of like the major labels and like the big labels, like there's not the money, like kind of they're not just like handing out money anymore. They
Yeah.
they have to like know who to invest in. They have to know like what um like okay, if I'm gonna financially back this artist, like I have to know that this person already has a following, or is already like established and all that stuff. And so I think yes, I think it's but it's yeah, but like at that point too, as an artist, it's kind of like, well, what do you need a label for if you're already doing everything? Like
Yeah.
the label is going to tell you the same thing, like go on social media, and like that's kind of so yeah. I think that's there's like yeah, for me it's I'm along for the ride, along for the growth, and I think a lot of major labels, they want to see an establishment already.
Okay. So
Yeah.
do you see yourself as kind of like a bridge between where like Integra Pink is and eventually getting to the point where like a label would want them, right? And
Hmm.
then like would you want to like stay like with them at that point, or do you want to like I guess maybe stay with them, but since there's a team, you're not like having to do much of the heavy lifting, and you'd have some more time to like help other bands like get to where they were. And then what's this? And so kind of related to that is this idea of I'm curious why big bands like let's say some of the ones that are like particularly like older now,
Okay.
like AC/DC or something like that, that's like super
Hmm.
big. Why don't they introduce other bands, like foster, like take in and mentor like
Mm,
a younger group in their 20s? Because in 30 years, they're all going to be dead. They
yeah.
will be dead. And all
Yeah.
that momentum from their whole career and their fan base and that whole community they've built, they're all going to have nowhere to go. But
Yeah.
if they every like 5 years they really work with a band and they really bring them up and they foster them and they help them make
Right.
great records and they have them open on a bunch of stuff. So like once Integra Pink gets to the point where they're big, like
Hmm.
an ACDC or something like that, where they're like, because let's say the first benchmark is make a good living. But once you're at that point where you can do your band full time, well, you're just going to do, 4 times as much, 5 times as much. And then
Yeah.
if the social media, the Pink TV takes off, like before you know it, they're huge, which is
Yeah.
great. But
Yeah.
so how do you like think about that? How do you use the fact that they are blown up to help try and like bring up a whole, I guess, like scene of people? Because that's kind of the whole reason I'm doing this podcast. Is
Okay.
my idea is that first off, we've got great knowledge in the scene and all these
Yeah.
people like if we can connect them and get together and have these conversations, we
Hmm.
can figure stuff out so that like artists, because I like pretty much learned whatever I know from 4 years of just trial and error and just like googling
Yeah.
things and trying it and googling
Yeah.
things and trying it.
Yeah.
But if we could build kind of like a resource and like let's say maybe I have my podcast, we have all this knowledge here, and
Yeah.
then like maybe someone else starts one who's like a musician, and we kind of have, and then let's say this podcast gets to the point where it's big.
Right.
Well, now I can have people on if I'm doing
Right.
5 episodes a week. I can have on newer, younger people, and I can give them connections. And
Right.
so I've got a couple ideas.
Okay.
One is that clout, if you have clout, you can kind of get all the people you need. Here's what it is that you can raw dog it as an artist and do it all yourself. That's great.
Uh-huh.
That's great. Or you can just, if you're a solo like person in the bedroom, you could just, oh wait, where am I? Oh, I'm in the bedroom. You could build like a platform or an audience or you could build the community first.
Yeah.
And then because you have the community, now these really good producers who are also just in their bedroom, who don't
Yeah.
have any big names yet, but are really good and know how to do all the stuff I don't know how to do, now they
Right.
want to work with me because I have an audience and I've got
Right.
a, like, and so you're like, perfect. And guess what the audience wants? They want good music from me and the people. And so then the graphic designers, then the
Yeah.
visual artists, then the photographers, then all these people like, so I guess, so it's kind of like you could either do social media and build an audience first, and then you can throw everything up. Or if you have a group of people, maybe you can do it. But so with the social media way, it's kind of this idea that like clout, like if you have clout, it kind of like loosens the gears and everything and
Uh-huh.
attracts everyone.
Right.
Um, and so, but once you have the clout, what do you do? That's my question for you.
Uh-huh.
Once Integra Pink has the clout,
Yeah.
what's your
What's the next
mindset?
step?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that when they get to that point, I'm gonna be even busier because like so like my job is to kind of just basically manage all the team and try to like
Yeah.
make sure we stay organized, make sure everyone's doing their thing, and you know what I mean. And so when they get to that point, I become even busier, and like a band like ACDC, like their managers, that's probably the only band that they're working with, and their
Yeah.
managers probably like you know
Yeah.
rich, and so like it's and I for me, and I know Integra Pink feels the same way. Like I love giving advice, and I love guiding. Like I wanted to be a guidance counselor. That's like what I went to school for, and
Oh, no
so
way.
I love mentoring and nurturing, and I probably get hit up like at least once a week from different bands just asking advice for like just like different things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And we like, and so um it's like I love it, and like I like and with photographers too. Photographers ask me all the time about like just different things, and um I love doing that. And I know in Integra Pink they never want to get so big where they forget where they come from, you know, that they
Yeah.
forget like their roots, and they don't want to be like jerks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was
Or
it
think
part
that
of
they're
that
too
bringing people with you who are from where you're from?
yeah,
And like, because then they're still kind of like 1 foot still where you came from. So
yeah,
they're like, so I
yeah,
guess, yeah. How do you make sure, even like, let's say they do get to ACDC level, well, you don't go, well, we're not going to play. It's like, no, 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 we got into this to play shows, and you'll probably still play shows, but how do you then keep yourself grounded?
right. I mean, I think I mean, it's hard. Like, I feel like I mean, ACDC level is like nuts. And so I
Yeah.
don't even know. I mean, I feel like those guys are like to
Oh,
the
how about the
point where,
Black Keys? The Black Keys were able to play clubs, and then they just booked a tour
okay,
to arenas, but they kind of pulled back on it because they said
because
we
they
don't really
couldn't,
want to. It's more fun to
yeah.
do clubs.
I feel like
Maybe there.
I feel like I mean, that's a whole thing too. Um, yeah, that's like a whole thing. Like, because, I mean, the Black Keys, I feel I think that's like definitely like a good that's like achievable. I think
Yeah.
ACDC is like kind of like, but um, I mean, I think it's just like picking openers maybe that are like smaller. I mean, I also like don't know. It's I'm not at that level, and I don't
Yeah.
know where, because there has to be some sort of point where it's like you can't just be playing a backyard show. I mean, or you can. I mean, I know the OCs like they're huge, and they sometimes play small ass places, and they sell out like in 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And I mean,
Yeah.
it just, I mean, I think it just kind of just depends on what feels right and what feels good and what feels like what we should be doing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like I don't have the answer for that. I don't know what it looks like because I'm not there yet. But I think at the end of the day, I want to stay humble. The band wants to stay humble. We all just want to like do cool things and make good music and entertain people and um, be really nice.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we kind of went like ahead into the future. So now I'm gonna pull it back to kind of more
Okay,
today.
sure.
Looking today. So
Yes.
you've got, let's say you've got, okay, I'm trying to phrase everything properly. So, okay, you've got, yeah, so you've got where you are right now, and you've got what we're working on. So you've got Pink TV, you've got these kind of things. So I guess what kind of things are you prioritizing right now in terms of social media and online stuff, and then
Hmm.
also in person playing shows?
Right.
What are the two things you're in both buckets that are kind of like your priorities?
Yeah, I just think maybe with social media, staying consistent and staying present. I mean, I think it's a really hard thing for all artists. Like I'm an artist as well, and it's like really hard
Yeah.
for me to stay consistent. Um, but I think just trying to just like always kind of reminding them, hey guys, like we gotta, hey guys, we gotta do this, we gotta do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I mean, it's kind of like what you need to do on social media is just like stay consistent. You have to just keep posting and keep
Yeah.
doing shit. Um, and as far as like live shows, it's just I think making what I think we're trying to do is like make every show an event and make every show
Mm.
memorable.
Yeah.
And um, by and then I'm trying to also um have them play outside of Southern California more. They're
Yeah.
going on tour in August with this other band Clio, and they're playing in the Bay Area and in Santa Cruz. And so this fall and winter, I'm trying to get them more to like just different places that they've never played before.
Yeah.
Because I think that keeps them on their toes, and that kind of keeps them um, it like they've established themselves in Southern California, or they're continuing to establish themselves, but um, I think they've played a lot of the same venues and they kind of know what's going on. And I think to kind of create more of a challenge is to like play with different people, play different places, and be on the road a little bit and kind of get that experience. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
so it prepares them to be touring musicians.
Yeah. Because I guess, yeah, if that's their ultimate goal, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you balance this idea? So in my brain,
Hmm.
the reason, so first off, like this interview is great. I'm getting to learn a ton of
Thank you.
cool stuff, and I'm having a lot of fun personally. I hope you're having some fun.
Yeah, hell
But
yeah. Thank you.
and
Yeah.
I hope the listener is enjoying a lot too, which I know they are. You are. Hi there, listener. Second camera.
Yes.
But so but one thing I realized is the way I grew the show the most and would get the most people watching, and actually got people engaged was if I posted it on Instagram with like my account and whoever the guest is. And I actually
Oh,
saw um, Allison Hagendorf, who's the head of Rock at Spotify, who she has her
cool.
own like Spotify podcast, but she also posted on Instagram with her guests. And I saw like that like worked really well for bringing two audiences together because it wasn't
Oh
just like
yeah.
I like posted it on my YouTube channel and Rick's audience who loves Rick never saw it on YouTube because they wouldn't. But if like we
Yeah.
posted both together on Instagram, then both of our audience overlap, and then the people like the 1/3 in each that are like I like that guy or I like that guy, they both jump over, and now both of our audiences are kind of like building into a
Yeah.
collective kind of like. And
Yeah.
so for me, I kind of thought that like a way you could define marketing, I guess, is that like getting in front of a different audience
Yeah.
and being able to present the cool things, the
Yeah.
aesthetic, all the stuff, the event, the memorable show, right? And
Yeah.
so when you're thinking about booking a tour and having them go to different places, how do you think about the different audience and how to make sure the audience is close enough or that they'll be able to actually gain fans from it
Hmm.
or they'll be able to be remembered by people, next time. Maybe that's getting them to follow them on social media so that they
Yeah.
stay frequent and so that when they
Right.
come back to town, they haven't forgot them. They go, oh, I still
Right.
love them. I remember last time I go. It felt like last week. It was a year ago,
Right.
though.
Right.
So how do you approach the different audience? I know I gave you a big thing, but
Yeah.
different audiences, how do you think about that?
Yeah. That's actually a really good question. And I don't know if I have really gotten like into it, which is like amazing because I do need to do that. But I think what they're really good at shows in general is that I think that they're very personable, and I think that um they just play the shit out of the venue, whether it's to like five people or to like 200 people. Like they are professionals. And
Mm,
um so I'm I, definitely like merch, definitely like staying at the venue, like not leaving after the set, just
yeah.
things like etiquette. um and yeah, I think that's kind of just like the biggest things, but that's a really good question. And um, that's also like, yeah, I need to maybe what I could do differently to, yeah, to secure those fans in those areas. That's it. Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I'm just like, this is me thinking ideas. But I guess yeah. So it's kind of interesting. Maybe like after each show you do a post show like, oh thanks, and with some photos and make it look cool, and then you
Yeah,
could do a cross post with the other people. So that could work. That could be a cool thing. And then what was I thinking? Oh, so so what do you think the impact of like I guess building the relationship with those other bands? Because you did mention not just being at the merch table after the gig, but staying for the other band's sets. And
yeah,
so is the idea that you're first etiquette, of course, but
yeah,
is the idea that second off, that's going to maybe create like a bond between the two of
yeah,
you. And so that when you do post something, are like, oh, here's a new song, here's our album, here's our EP, that maybe the other band will share it. And how important do you think it is like having a network of allies? I guess allies is
mhm,
kind of like an overused term and has a lot of connotations, but I guess you'd say just like people in your like people championing your music. I guess
yeah,
like and so do you think it's important to like build up kind of a network, and how would you go about doing that? You know what I mean? Of like other
yeah,
bands that have like an audience. So even if it's only 1,000 of their people that see their story, well, you
yeah.
take that across like 10 or 20 bands and you drop your album. Now you got 20,000 people who are going to click it,
Right,
give it a first listen.
right,
Yeah. So
right.
how would you go about like, would you take more of a formal approach to maintaining a network of people championing Integra Pink, or like, would you make a spreadsheet? Like, what's your idea?
Yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah.
so a couple things, right? So I think that um the in person is
Yeah.
really important. Like really, really important. What I've learned and advice I've been given and that things I've read and just life experiences, like
Yeah.
in person relationships are like the biggest thing. And I think I'm really friendly and I think I've just, you know, that's helped me a lot, to just kind of build relationships with other people. And that's, I think, staying with the bands, talking with the bands, hanging with the bands, um, like supporting them, liking their stuff, engaging with them. That breeds like engagement back. And again, like making it authentic. I think it's
Yeah.
I've never been about like, oh, this band or this person has a lot of clout, so I want to be
Yeah.
friends with them. It's like, no, like if we become friends, we become friends, but I'm not going to be just friends with
Yeah.
you just because I that's not how I work. And
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of being like, yeah, I'm going to like network. Well, like we're we're friends. Like if you need anything, I got you. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And not just because like you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Like no,
No, yeah, yeah.
like I love helping out. I love being there for people. You know what I mean? It's like, and so, um, yeah, and so I think
Yeah.
that's that point. And then I think that's it. I think I answered your question. I think.
I think so. I
Okay.
may have lost track. I will not confess, but I think I may have. Okay, so I guess yeah, we're kind of nearing the end here.
Cool.
Oh no. Very sad. Uh,
It went by wow. It went by fast. Damn. I
yeah.
didn't even.
See, I told you. I told you. Okay, so okay, now that we're kind of like nearing the end, I guess we didn't even really touch too much on the magazine.
Dude, I know, man.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess I'll just have to have you back on.
There you go.
There we go. Okay.
There you
So
go.
I guess so the main band to check out would be Integra Pink.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. And now where can these people find Integra Pink?
Integra Pink at Integra Pink, um, um, Instagram, TikTok. Um, yeah, it's pretty much where they're mostly.
On Instagram and TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram and TikTok. Okay. And then would you recommend that Integra Pink or at least one of the members or maybe someone come on the Rock Show with Connor Farrell?
Yeah, they would
Maybe
love that. They
get
would
to see
love
a little
that.
bit of my audience, show some love to Integra
Yeah,
Pink, give them a
they would
follow,
love
come
that
out to
for
a
sure.
show.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. Well, I think I know the guy
we'll
to
set
set
it
it up.
up. We'll set it up, dude.
Okay, okay. I guess yeah. Sweet. I guess is there anything else you'd like to plug?
I mean, yeah, Instagram reckless dot mgmt, um, and then recklessmanagement.com. My personal is at Good Time Work Studios, and yeah, I mean, for everyone out there, like, if you want to work together, like, let's go, let's do it.
Okay, okay. And is that for bands who want management? Is that for photography? What do you
Literally
what you
anything, like
thinking about?
anything that is maybe not management. I don't know if I'm at that point where I'm like going to take on another band, but like just, working on shows, working on just anything, like,
Yeah.
you know, like I love collaborating. I love working with people. Like, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for watching and have a good rest of your night.
Woo!
Five,
Thank
four, three,
you.
two, one.
Oh.
Peace, love, and rock and roll, brother. Peace, love, and rock and roll.